The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him.
Leading from afar, from new trade deals to new threats to end current wars, what President Trump had to say today in Scotland.
I saw the yellow stripping and then didn't really know about it then until we walked down in the lobby, and then they said that you can't leave.
Reno's largest casino on lockdown. Inside the tragedy that closed the doors, what we know about the victims in an early morning shootout. Plus, union workers put Boeing on strike alert again. How this potential work stoppage could impact President Trump's vision for the future of America's superior military air power. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Good Monday evening. We are so glad you're here with us. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. It was an up and down day on Wall Street, but when the bell rang at the close of trading, the Dow finished down 64.3 points. This despite a new trade deal between the United States and European Union, as President Trump is overseas right now, and it is a high-stakes economic week ahead for President Trump. While the EU deal could set the stage for more agreements, many last-minute deals ahead of the Friday tariff deadline could be elusive. Then there is also what we can expect from China with a new round of trade talks happening today. National correspondent Audra El-Nashar joins us with the latest from around the world.
President Trump looking to lock in more trade deals with major economies after announcing a long-awaited agreement with the European Union.
If we are successful, I think it would be the biggest deal each of us has ever struck. So I'm very much looking forward.
Ever struck by anybody, that's true.
The biggest prize now is landing a deal with America's single largest trading partner, China.
We have a good relationship with China, but China's tough. And like you're tough, you know, we're all tough.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent leading the U.S. delegation for a third round of talks with Chinese counterparts beginning Monday in Stockholm.
I don't expect some kind of enormous breakthrough today. What I expect is continued monitoring and checking in on the implementation of our agreement thus far.
Currently operating under temporary trade terms expiring August 12th, the White House looking to extend that deadline another 3 months. As President Trump looks to bolster U.S. manufacturing, part of securing a balanced trade relationship with China, Bessent says, is to see China manufacture less and consume more.
If they are willing to go down that route, then we could actually do it together. And then there are lots of other things we can talk about, whether it's them buying sanctioned Russian or Iranian oil.
That's now in question. Monday morning, President Trump said he's shortening his deadline for Russian President Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine.
10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting.
Before imposing secondary tariffs of 100% on countries buying Russian oil. China is a top importer of Russian oil. Other major trading partners without deals by Friday will see their imports tariffed in the U.S. at a much higher rate.
No extensions, no more grace periods. August 1st, the tariffs are set.
Now, Trump says he does not have time to negotiate with smaller nations, so they'll be tariffed at a blanket rate around 10 to 15%.
And we'll see if there's any wiggle room with that August 1st deadline, or if that sticks, Atra. On those 100% secondary tariffs for buying Russian oil that you just mentioned, which other countries could be hit?
Well, of course, it would be up to the president's discretion, but we'd really be looking at India, which last month bought more than 2 million barrels per day from Russia. Turkey, also a likely target, but what's tricky here for the president is he wants trade deals with both of these countries, India primarily, and 100% tariffs would derail that, to put it mildly. But at the same time, there's bipartisan pressure here in Congress for Trump to implement these second tariffs and fast. So if he were to make exemptions, it would certainly cost him some political capital.
Yeah, that would be massive. Live from Washington, D.C., Audra El-Nashar, thank you. A manhunt is underway for the killer of a couple who was hiking with their 2 daughters in northwest Arkansas. The man and woman were found dead in Devil's Den State Park Saturday afternoon. No information on a motive was provided. State police are asking the public for any information on the man. They say the deaths are being investigated as a potential double homicide. The children ages 7 and 9 were not harmed and are now with family members. 2 dead and at least 3 others injured injured following a shooting outside of a casino at the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno, Nevada. Around 7:30 this morning, officers received a call of an active shooter in the valet area of the parking lot. Several victims have been treated for gunshot wounds. The suspect is in custody and is being treated after being shot himself.
Within 4 minutes, we had located the suspect, and an officer-involved shooting had occurred. The suspect was taken to the hospital. I don't have an update as to his status at this time, but I do know that it was an adult male.
The suspect in the stabbing at a Michigan Walmart is now charged with terrorism and assault with intent to murder. Today, 42-year-old Bradford James Guile was arraigned and pleaded not guilty. He's being held on a $100,000 bond. A hearing is set for August 6th. 11 people were injured in Saturday's attack, with one in serious condition as of this morning, according to Munson Healthcare. 5 people are now charged in connection with a violent brawl that broke out in Cincinnati on Friday night. That is according to Fox News, citing the city's police chief. A warning: the following video may be disturbing. It shows a man getting punched and kicked by multiple people, and later a woman getting attacked. The police chief said she is in complete disgust, and investigators are working diligently to get more information. Vice President Vance promoting President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act today. The VP toured a steel plant in Canton, Ohio, around 60 miles outside of Cleveland.
And here's what the One Big Beautiful Bill means for you in very concrete terms. Number one, we're going to see take-home pay go up in the United States of America. In this district, probably $7,000, $8,000 per family over the next 3 to 4 years. We're going to see your taxes cut.
Vance also defended the Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case, insisting the president wants full transparency, but that releasing all credible information can take time. Today, President Trump answered questions about Jeffrey Epstein, continuing to distance himself from the convicted sex trafficker.
I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
Planned Parenthood can still treat patients covered by Medicaid, despite the provision in the Big Beautiful Bill that disallows federal money going to the health care company. Today, a federal judge says the measure is unconstitutional. The Obama-appointed judge says the law violates Planned Parenthood's equal protection rights by signaling them out. The administration will likely appeal the ruling. The Department of Education is now investigating Oregon's transgender athlete policies. It's looking into whether allowing trans people to compete in girls' sports violates Title IX. The announcement follows accusations that 5 Northern Virginia counties violated Title IX with their trans bathroom and locker room policies. President Donald Trump is asking local leaders across the country to clear homeless people off the streets and get them treatment for any ailments they may have, whether they like it or not. Now, some of these leaders are pushing back despite the threat of losing that federal grant dollars if they don't comply. The National News Desk, Chris Daniels, spoke with Seattle's mayor, who says he remains skeptical of the practicality of the executive order.
It is arguably the most complicated issue of this past decade. How can or should cities get people off the sidewalks and into housing and treatment facilities? The president is now citing public safety as a reason to force the civil commitment of people with a mental illness or living on the streets, and threatening to pull discretionary grants for failing to curb urban camping.
And I don't think, again, the Trump administration really thinks through the practicality of some of these executive orders.
Bruce Harrell is Seattle's mayor, where there are nearly 17,000 homeless people, most of the estimated 31,000 statewide, and where numbers have gone up even as city and the state have spent more than $1 billion to address it. Is the city of Seattle prepared to lose federal grants as a result of this executive order?
We are prepared, and so when we look at our tax policy and our planning policy, we always built in that contingency.
What this is really is just a PR stunt.
Daniel Hornig is a former deputy director of the National Economic Council. There is a certain percentage of the community that says, hey, they think the federal government should get involved.
I'm not against the federal government getting involved. I think that there are ways that the federal government, for example, should be providing more resources to house people, more resources to provide treatment for those who need it, more resources to prevent people becoming homeless in the first place.
What about the flip side of this, that people suggest the federal government does need to step in here because Seattle hasn't done its job?
Well, we're sheltering more people. And if you look at what we did in 2023, for example, over a couple of thousand people we sheltered. You look at 2024, again, approximately a couple of thousand people, in addition to building 33,000 units and 6,500 units of affordable housing.
More than a dozen Democratic-run states are suing the Trump administration, alleging the White House is trying to gather sensitive personal data of people who use food stamps. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is demanding Social Security numbers and home addresses from people who use the SNAP program. In May, a judge declined to stop the IRS from doing the same. He used New York Attorney General Letitia James on what she claims is the White House's aim.
We will not allow this life-saving program to be illegally used to hunt down immigrants and their families. No one should fear for their safety when they seek food assistance for their families. And this administration cannot intimidate vulnerable families and prevent them from putting food on the table.
Coming up next year, the regions most affected by the ongoing dangerous heat wave and when you can expect to get some relief. Then, Trump's frustration with Russia is growing. The new deadline he may give Putin to end the war in Ukraine or face economic consequences. Then, a setback in the effort to protect millions of Americans from a cancer-causing gas leaking from facilities nationwide. We're back in 90 seconds. Right now, over 175 million Americans are under heat alerts across the Southeast and Midwest, with extreme heat warnings affecting tens of millions of people. Dangerous temperatures are forecast in cities like Atlanta, Charleston, West Virginia, and Chicago. Some areas could feel like up to 115 degrees, and it is likely to get a lot cooler by Thursday. Some silver lining there. Around 10 million people are at risk, though, of severe thunderstorms today and tonight, especially in South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa. Up to 90-mile-an-hour winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes are all possible. In Scotland today, President Trump says there is no progress being made towards a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, and he is becoming disappointed in Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street.
The president now says the new date for his ceasefire deadline could be within 10 days. If a peace deal is not reached, Russia and its trading partners would face tariffs at about 100%. President Trump today also showing some frustrations with Israel as the Gaza war drags on. National correspondent Kelly Gaskins joins us in Washington with more on how the president wants to shift its approach to Gaza and Hamas.
From Scotland, Monday, President Trump addressed what he called the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, breaking with Israel over the urgency to get food to the starving civilians.
It's a terrible situation. The whole thing is terrible.
The president announced the U.S. will step up its role in Gaza by setting up American-run food centers.
I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
That includes turning up the pressure on Israel.
I think Israel can do a lot.
While Israel has begun short tactical pauses in fighting to allow limited aid in, critics argue it's nowhere near enough. Trump also casting doubt on whether recent U.S. food shipments have ever even reached the people who need them.
You know, when you do something there, it gets taken by Hamas or somebody, but it gets taken.
When it comes to ending the war, the president says Hamas is still holding on to the last group of Israeli hostages, making meaningful negotiation nearly impossible.
Hamas has become very difficult to deal with in the last couple of days because they don't want to give up these last 20, because they think as long as we have them, they have protection.
Senator Lindsey Graham underscoring the president's point.
I think President Trump has come to believe, and I certainly have come to believe, there's no way you're going to negotiate an end to this war with Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization who is chartered to destroy the state of Israel. They're religious Nazis.
While in Scotland, President Trump met with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the President of the European Commission. Both affirmed they are committed to aiding the effort to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
And here's a live look over St. Louis, where more than 3,200 workers at 3 different plants in the area could go on strike by the end of this week, impacting the creation of the U.S. next generation fighter jet, the F-47. The 3 St. Louis area plants currently make U.S. fighters in the F-15 and F-18 series. In March, President Trump announced a new $20 billion deal with Boeing to build the F-47 fleet. Last night, rank-and-file union members rejected a contract that was supported by union leaders. No new contract talks have been scheduled. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Ohio, where drones are helping cops respond to 911 calls.
This is a big, big day for CPD.
Drones are now first responders in Cincinnati.
We can identify risks early, respond faster, and deploy resources more efficiently than ever before.
They'll be dispatched to 911 calls.
It means instead of waiting for an officer to arrive by car or on foot, we can now launch a drone within seconds of a call.
More eyes in the sky means crucial information gets to officers in real time.
They'll be able to see our footage as we're flying on their computer inside their car.
Right now, even for us, it's difficult. Every morning we wake up with news and we have to review the law, what is the changes, and doubt ourselves to double check what is going on.
Walter Jimenez says since January 2025, his day-to-day work life has been a roller coaster, keeping up with executive orders and the constant changes in immigration law. He says it's a complex system with many moving pieces that determines whether someone is detained or deported.
The government is detaining more people than ever before, but not all of them are being deported.
He says the Misha Moulton law firm is able to help 90% of their clients get released from detainment.
Take a look at this.
This video shows a driver speeding down a neighborhood street and crashing into multiple parked vehicles. Sadiq Melville helped the crashed driver get out of his car.
Did he say anything to you or say anything about the crash?
Yeah, he was just mad, about his car.
Yet we counted more than a dozen vehicles he either totaled or damaged. Fifth Street neighbors made it clear this was not the first and won't be the last time this happens.
How many times have you been impacted by the speeding, the crashes?
You really don't want to know.
How are you both feeling today now, having to walk out your door and see this and reminds you of all the times this has happened in your neighborhood?
Frustrated. Nothing's being done about the traffic.
Coming up, why dozens of sterilization facilities across the country are now exempt from complying with rules meant to reduce people's cancer risk. We'll be right back. Efforts to reduce toxic cancer-causing gas emissions across the country were dealt a setback this month when the White House granted exemptions to new clean air rules for dozens of commercial sterilization facilities. Public health experts call it a dangerous game that threatens the health of nearby communities. But the White House says it's necessary to protect national security. Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski looks at the impact of this major move to delay new clean air rules.
An estimated 13 million people nationwide live within 5 miles of commercial sterilization facilities that use ethylene oxide, or ETO, a toxic invisible gas used to sterilize medical equipment.
They're all around the country.
Marvin Brown, senior attorney at Earth Justice, is worried about the public health implications of pausing these regulations impacting so many people.
The effect of this is going to be to put people's health at risk.
ETO was classified by the Environmental Protection Agency as a carcinogen nearly a decade ago. It's been linked to multiple cancers, including leukemia, lymphoma, and breast cancer.
We are breathing a deadly carcinogen.
After years of community outcry about elevated cancer risks,
we are sick and we are dying.
Documented by Spotlight on America, the agency finalized tougher rules in 2024, requiring facilities to reduce ETO emissions by 90%. But now, just over a year later, the White House has granted a 2-year exemption for those new regulations to nearly half of all commercial sterilizers nationwide.
Is this unprecedented?
Incredibly unprecedented. The administration has used this authority for the very first time in the history of the Clean Air Act.
The proclamation says exemptions were granted because the technology to implement the ETO rule is not available, that the current compliance timeline will likely force existing sterilization facilities to close down, seriously disrupting the supply of medical equipment, and it says, as a result, undermine our national security.
Of these facilities, 7 appear to already meet the emission standards.
But Brown says the White House reasons defy logic because several facilities have already installed the very equipment needed to reduce emissions.
So they're already doing it.
They're already doing it. EPA knows it can be done.
There's also a lingering question about transparency on why these specific exemptions were granted. Spotlight on America submitted public records requests to both the White House and EPA to get more information on the criteria, but we have yet to get answers. Does the public have a right to know that information?
100%.
Of the 40 facilities granted exemptions, 16 were on the EPA's high-risk list for ETO put out in 2022, which Brown says creates even more concern.
Rolling back health protections is not making anyone healthy. The administration is playing a dangerous game of chicken.
The American Chemistry Council, which represents several impacted companies, praised the exemptions, calling the tougher rules an overreaching regulatory measure, which they say didn't take into account meaningful progress to reduce ETO emissions over the past several years. But when we asked them for an interview to discuss that progress, they declined. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Coming up next, the brain benefit that daily walking offers as revealed by a new study. We'll be right back. Walking daily can lower your risk of cognitive decline, especially if you have a genetic predisposition for Alzheimer's disease. That's according to a new study being presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference. People in their 70s who said they maintained or increased their walking habits over 10 years had better processing speed and executive function. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening to learn about the co-wishing scam, and how to protect yourself when using public parking meters around the country. I'm Didi Gatton here in Washington. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10.